Okay. So okay, hey everybody, it's late, honey. I'm live on TikTok here and I'm also live on Facebook and YouTube as well. All right. I was live a little bit earlier. I was down at the courthouse today and I had a very, very long stream and I told everybody I was going to come back so we can kind of discuss some of these charges and some of the jury instructions. I'm not going to be on here super long because it's late. My intention was to get here like at about 8:39, maybe 9:30. It's like 10:50. But life was lifing and I had stuff to do. I was out all day at the courthouse. Just wanted to just kind of really quickly get on here and talk about the again, talk about some of the jury instructions and talk about his charges and stuff like that. Okay. So how's everybody doing over here on TikTok? How's everybody doing here on YouTube and Facebook? So just really quickly before we get into that, I'm going to give everybody a quick update about what's going on. Today, the jury got their instructions. And they went to deliberate. They're not deliberating now. They deliberated up until about maybe like 5 o'clock. And hello. They deliberated up until about maybe like 5 o'clock or so. And then that was it. They said they were going to go home. I said, look, if they deliberate past 5, like 5:15, 5:30, then we'll get a verdict today, because the judge told them that they are required to stay there until 5 o'clock. If they want to stay longer, they can. But the judge told them, hey, you guys have to stay, until 5. So, like I said, if they stayed after, then it would be like, why would you need to stay? You know what I mean? Like, so, but no, they were like, no, 5 o'clock, we're out of here. So that leads me to believe that they are not near like I don't think they're near a verdict yet, right? I don't think they're near a verdict yet. I don't think they are. All right. So, there were also a couple of notes that the jury gave the judge. Okay. One of the notes was regarding one of the jurors, juror number 25. And juror number 25, basically, I don't think he wants to be on the jury. I think he wants to leave because he was just like, I don't think I can continue. And the judge was like, no, you got to continue. And then, if something else happens and like you really, really can't do it, then okay, this is the reason why we have alternates, right? And when Trump don't pardon Diddy, do you think Diddy will release the Trump tapes? Listen, y'all are not going to be giving me these funny questions and then I'm going to get sidetracked. Oh my God. Listen. So anyway, let me focus on what I'm kind of tired here now. So before the jury went to deliberate, the judge, made it clear to the alternates. Okay. He said, look, you guys aren't going in there to deliberate. You guys were the alternates. He was like, but it's not over for y'all. Okay. And he's, implicitly told them, he was like, look, don't go too far. Like, leave your cell phone number with the marshal because we could be calling you. Okay. And I thought, wow, like, could you imagine if they called one of the alternates today? Because when juror number 25, hi Vincent, when juror number 25, they said he doesn't think he's going to be able to continue or whatever. I was like, okay, so then we're going to have to be calling one of these alternates today. But the judge was like, no, you gotta do what you gotta do. So that was that. Okay. There was also another note that was sent to the judge later on, and this was tea. Okay, let me tell you. They said they asked the judge, if someone hands somebody or gives somebody, substances, right? Would that be considered distribution? So that was another note that was handed to the judge. Okay, so I thought that was interesting, honey. And then the very last note that was given to the judge was that we're going to end at 5 o'clock, and we're not going to deliberate anymore today. We're going to deliberate tomorrow. Okay, so that was the very last the very last note that was given to the judge. So that was that. Look, the judge let everybody know tomorrow morning, or just in general in the mornings until they've come to a verdict, that he wants a lawyer from each side to be there no later than about 8:45 a.m. The jury will come in at 9 o'clock, and they're going to go right back into that jury room and continue to deliberate. They're going to continue to deliberate, and they have until 5 o'clock. And like I said, if the judge said, yes, you can go past 5. All right, these invitations to co-host, child, like that doesn't seem that seems kind of strange. So that's that. So let me just break up. I'm reading here from the Washington Post. Okay, so these are his 5 charges. Okay, so the first one is a racketeering conspiracy, and this charge alleges that Combs used his company, Combs Enterprise, to engage in criminal activity, including coercion and blackmail of women for sex acts. Okay, that's the first charge. Okay, now remember, inside of that racketeering conspiracy, there are predicate acts, right? So, but let's go to number 2. Okay, the second one is sex trafficking by force, fraud, or coercion. So these charges involve the allegations that Combs used force, fraud, or coercion to transport individuals for X acts. Okay, I got to be real careful on TikTok because they don't play those games. And I have they bullying one juror. Well, let me tell you. Let me just read this, okay, and then I'm going to get back to more stuff that people are talking about at the courthouse. All right. So, transportation. So the 5 charges. This is number 3. Transportation to engage in prostitution. Okay, we got to be careful, honey. These charges relate to the alleged transportation of individuals across state lines with the intent to engage in prostitution. Okay, and yeah, so he's pleaded not guilty to all 5 charges. Okay, hold on a second. All right, so this is the thing, right? I don't want to. 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 I don't want to talk and say anything like crazy or anything like that. But I don't want to say anything crazy. But there are people talking. Like I don't know if there's anything going on. I really, really don't know. But the people are definitely talking, and it's just like, it's just weird that we just started, right? They just started deliberating, and then a juror can't. What do you mean, bro? Like, we had this trial, right, for what, like 7 weeks, right, 8 weeks, whatever it is, and you can't. What do you mean? You know what I mean? Like you can't continue. But anyway, like I said, the judge told him that you gotta go do what you gotta do and get back up in there and dust yourself off and try again, basically. Okay. So if you're not following me here, give me a follow here. I'll definitely be back at the courthouse tomorrow. I'll be back there tomorrow morning. And yeah, so I'm going to read off a couple of these jury instructions from Inner City Press. Just a couple. I can't do all of them because it's late at night, but I'm going to read off a couple just so you can have an idea. We all got the drama. The saga continues. We ain't going nowhere. We can't stop cancer. Okay, what channel is it on? You know something? Unfortunately, the proceedings are not televised. Earl Maxwell, what you talking about, Jamel? They're not the please read the first count. I did. Okay, but let me just continue here. Okay, as I get to the jury instructions, it'll be more clear. Okay, because he goes into each one. So, good evening, Pumpkin. All right, so this is in the morning. The judge, enters the courtroom, and they basically Combs's lawyer basically, lets the judge know that, the laptops are ready, and there's a few things that they'll finalize during the charge. And the judge is telling Mark Agnifilo, you can just go ahead and email whatever you need to email to the chambers, that, stuff that's not already in the docket. All right. And so the judge lets the jury know that he's going to read the instructions. He said, but it's long, but I'll try to make it interesting. So one thing I like about Inner City Press is he kind of like condenses everything. Yeah, federal court cannot broadcast on TV, unfortunately. The state court can live stream and stuff like that, but federal court can't, unfortunately. And I mean, what is that? Why not? Why, right? I think they should be able to. What is that? What is that? I think they should be able to. I really think they should be able to live stream. But anyway, that's another story for another day. We'll, let's leave it. Oh, contacting those to log in. Okay. You know something? I'm on StreamYard, Jamel. So when you tag people, it just comes up in black. It doesn't come up like in blue, because I'm on StreamYard. But thank you so much for tagging people, and please share the video in real time. And you can share this too, right? In real time on TikTok. All right. Please share it. Okay. All right. So let's kind of get to this again. I'm not going to be on here super long because it's very late. So I'm just going to just like read you this stuff that I think is really important. Okay. So the judge tells everyone, you've read all the evidence in this case, as well as the final arguments of the parties. He says, I'm going to instruct you on the law. And, he said that the evidence is the testimony and the answers and the exhibits. Arguments are not evidence, right? You are the sole and exclusive arbiters of the facts. What is reasonable doubt is based on your common sense after carefully weighing all the evidence. So everybody understands exactly what that means, right? He says, you must weigh each witness's credibility, the truth and importance of their testimony, size him or her up, and you must decide. Sean Combs has been formally charged in an indictment. An indictment is not evidence, okay? This is count one, charges from 2004 to 2024, a racketeering enterprise. Count two. Yes, I'm going live tomorrow for sure, definitely. I'll be down there at the courthouse. Count two, from 2009 to 2018, sex trafficking of Cassandra Ventura. Count three, from 2009 to 2018, transporting individuals, including but not limited to Ventura, for purposes of prostitution. Okay. Count four, from 2019 to 2024, sex trafficking of Jane. Count five, from 2019 to 2024, transporting individuals but not limited to Jane for purposes of prostitution, and each count is separate. Okay. For attempt, the U.S. must show intent and substantial steps taken. Mere intention does not amount to an attempt. Aiding and abetting means knowingly doing some act to aid and encourage a crime to be committed. Okay. And I really want you to keep the charges in mind when I kind of go through some of these jury instructions. Okay. Because again, like I said before, on a live, there's a difference between kind of like, seeing like just a headline here or a sound bite there or whatever. But when all this evidence has been presented to a jury and, for several weeks, and then the judge gives their instructions, these are instructions that the jury has to follow. It's not like what you think the law should be, or you know what I'm saying, like what you might think is fair or whatever. It's what the specific instructions that the judge gives the jury. They got to follow that, whether they agree with it or not. Like they have to follow that. You understand? So, I mean, it is what it is. Okay, so look, Judge, for RICO, the U.S. must prove that from 2004 to 2024, there was an agreement between two or more individuals for a racketeering enterprise that impacted interstate commerce, that defend, joined, and committed at least two predicate acts. There's a ton of them. There's like, I think either 10 or 12, but we'll get into it further, okay? The U.S. must prove a mutual understanding to cooperate. You may infer its existence from the circumstances of this case. Actions may speak louder than words. You may consider the acts of all those you find to be participants. If you find that the Combs enterprise existed, you must find whether it continued in a substantially similar role. A substantially similar form from 2004 to 2024. The people can change as to the defendant being a member. He had to know of the existence of the enterprise. Okay. The U.S. alleges 8 um, predicate acts, right? So I guess it's 8. I thought it was at least 10. Okay, so 8. So it's kidnapping, arson, bribery, witness tampering, forced labor, sex trafficking for prostitution, intent to distribute substances, right? And the U.S. has to prove 2 of those offenses within 10 years. Okay, I don't know. Think to yourself. Do you think that there was no verdict, Miss G? Okay, the jury is still deliberating. All right. Um. All right. So, the KID napping does not occur if the victim consented. Consent may be withdrawn. Arson under California law means the conspirator set fire or caused the fire willfully or maliciously. All right. Bribery of a witness under California law requires that a conspirator gave or promised to give a bribe to a person giving or about information to law enforcement unlawfully influence it. For witness tampering, violation 18, section 1512, blah, blah, blah. It does not matter if the subject of the threat is in fact fearful. Only a threat is required. Okay? So everyone understands that, right? But it must be knowing. For forced labor, you require use of force or use of force or physical restraint. A person may withdraw consent and it may become forced labor. Sex trafficking will have the same definition as in counts 2 and 4, and transportation to engage in prostitution. All right, the same as count 3 and 5. Next is distribution of substances, including this long word. So he was going into, I was there for this part here. He was going into several substances, including, schnoshnain, right? And a lot of like Molly and stuff, but he was using like the scientific, is that what you call it? Like maybe the scientific word for these specific substances. So there was one that was like super long. Okay, but basically, like I said, the white flour. Okay, let me see what someone said here. Hold on. Just said guilty and had to take on the sun. No, sweetie. No. Listen, there's a lot of misinformation, and I'm really seeing this. Why would somebody put that? Like, and I'm not, listen, this is not anything to you. You just seeing stuff online probably, and it's not your fault, but that's not true. Like, and I'm seeing so much misinformation. It's so weird. Like, how do you get online and just put something that's not true online, right? And then somebody's going to read it and think it's true. But listen to me. There's no verdict. Nobody has been found guilty. The jury left at 5 o'clock. They're going to continue deliberations tomorrow, right? We know Diddy breaks the law real bad, but the jury isn't at court. I heard there was a problem with one of the jurors and their ability to follow instructions. There was juror number 25, and the judge said, "Too bad, you got to go back in and continue to deliberate." All right, so look, let's go back to this. Okay, so next is just distribution of substances. Okay, so it said including this long word. So the long word was probably one of the, MOLLY or one of those, maybe something like that. Okay, so distribution actually means actual transfer to deliver to another person. For possession, physical custody is not needed. Control is enough. Listen to what that just said, because listen to me. One of the notes that the juror handed to the the foreperson handed to the judge, this was one of the very last notes that was handed was, if you hand somebody a substance, is that considered distribution? And the judge said, go back and look at the instructions I gave you earlier, child. Okay. It meets the elements. Hello, good evening. All right. So let's go. RICO has a 5-year statute of limitation. You must find that it continued past 2019. If you find that the government has not proved this beyond a reasonable doubt, you must find the defendant not guilty. On SEX trafficking, counts 2 and 4, transport means to take or convey from one place to another with reckless regard. That will satisfy the statute. The deliberate closing of eyes. You must be unanimous on at least one specific instance of SEX trafficking. Would you mind repeating that the jury must follow the jury must follow the instructions from the judge? Do you mean a specific count? I don't know exactly what you mean. On counts 3 and 5, knowingly transporting or arranging for the transportation of an individual for purpose of an act of P, prostitution, buying or arranging a ticket is enough. P, prostitution, does not need to be the main purpose. That same word, P, such and such, I don't want to keep saying that because I feel like TikTok will eventually catch on, child, is engaging in SEX activity for money or its equivalent. And this is something that they have to be unanimous on, at least one specific act of the transportation with intent to engage in the P word. Okay. So on the venue, the U.S. the government must prove at least one act occurred in the Southern District. Okay. And then he named the 8 counties of the Southern District, which one of them is Manhattan, right? So clearly, a lot of this stuff took place down at the Trump Hotel, which is where? In Manhattan, okay? And I think there were a couple other hotels in Manhattan where this, alleged activities took place. Judge, he goes on to say, we are in the home stretch, okay? In weighing expert testimony, you should not accept it just because I allowed it. The testimony of the government officials are not worth more or less weight than any of the other witnesses, okay? Which is important, right? Government witnesses are not beyond reproach. Law enforcement witnesses are not beyond reproach. I went to traffic court and an officer lied on me right then and there in front of the judge and straight up lied on me. Okay, like he lied. I don't want to get into that because it pissed me off. So, but anyway, so witnesses given immunity should be examined with greater. More than ordinary witnesses, okay? Charts and summaries, demonstrative aids are not evidence and will not be available to you in the jury room. So I wrote a little note about this. So there were summary witnesses. That were called to the stand. Do you guys remember the summary witnesses? There were a couple of them, and they were on the stand for a few days, and they were showing like a bunch of charts and stuff like that. So when the jurors go to deliberate, they're going to use that stuff from those summary witnesses as opposed to, remember when they were showing each text message one by one? It's just easier to show those charts that the summary witnesses put together, okay? Because it's just more streamlined. It just makes more sense, okay? Certain witnesses were permitted to be identified by pseudonyms that should not bear on your evaluation of credibility. The defendant had no responsibility to testify, and he did not. You must not attach any significance to that. So basically, we know what that means, right? Answer me one question. What do you think he's guilty or not guilty? I think he's guilty on some things for sure. Okay, I do. Because here's the thing. When you talk about, and I'm going to talk about the super obvious charges, and then I'll get back to this. Like, just give me like a quick hot second, right? When you talk about him transporting people, right, across the country to engage in certain activities, like that literally happened, right? I don't think that we can argue that didn't happen, right? Thank you, Chris. I don't think that we can argue that didn't happen. And even like the situation with the bribery, right? Like, I mean, that happened. Those things happened. Okay. We watched the video when he was, there with Cassie in the hallway and, trying to get her back to the room. We know that there was an FO happening at that time. Like, that happened. Those things happened. Okay. So, but at the end of the day, it's what the government can prove, and it's also what the jurors think. It's not up to me, it's up to the jurors, right? So basically right here the judge is kind of talking about how certain witnesses were permitted to be identified by pseudonyms, which was really like ridiculous because, child, we know who everybody was. Okay, we know who everybody was. Don't name them in the chat, but we know who all the the people were who were there by pseudonyms. We also understand that Diddy did not testify. Somebody asked me in my live earlier, do I think that, how did he transport? Because he paid for their plane tickets, right? He paid for their plane tickets to get there. Okay. Okay. You said for the information that you've heard, Diddy's not guilty. All right. So he didn't testify. I said I felt like he should have. You know the reason why I think he should have testified? Because I feel like people should hear his side of the story, right? I feel like people should hear his side of the story. I think that the prosecution would have cross-examined him and they would have done said all kinds of stuff and stuff like that. But I still think that people should have heard his side of the story because there were 34 witnesses and everybody gave their side. I think he should have given his side of the story. I really do believe that. And guess what? If comes back, meaning Diddy did not have to hand the substances to somebody, just arrange the use and access them. Yeah, absolutely. That's what, yeah, that's it right there. So I think he should have. And if he's found guilty, you know what everybody's going to say? Well, he should have testified and given his side of the story. You said there's no story, he's guilty. No, if he testified, the door would be open for potentially other charges or evidence. I don't know, but there are so many charges, right? There are already so many charges. And RICO is so broad, honey. It's just like, you know what I'm saying? So, but basically the judge told the jury, look, don't attach any significance to the fact that he didn't testify, because at the end of the day, he's not obligated to testify. It's the government's job to prove their case, period. So he didn't have to testify. He didn't have to testify. And he didn't. The defense put up about maybe 20 minutes worth of exhibits, honey. And that was the end of that. Okay. I do feel like the defense did a pretty good job poking holes in a lot of the testimony of people, which they're supposed to do. I would expect nothing less from lawyers who are being paid millions of dollars. They better do a good job, right? And I think that, it's mixed opinion on Agnifillo's closing argument, but I feel he did a good job. Some of the stuff was a little out there, but I do think that he did a pretty decent job. And I think that, someone said that it's something to the effect of, he's trying to swim with his hands tied behind his back. It's a very rough case. It's a very, very challenging case for the defense, and I guess they're doing the best of what they have, child. Teresa, if he's guilty, this new president will pardon him probably. But this is the thing. There's a process to that. Like, I don't think that it's something that's going to happen overnight. I do believe that he's going to serve some type of time. It's not going to be like, okay, he's found guilty, and then, like, let's just say he's found guilty tomorrow, right? And then, like, Monday morning, he's out of there. It's not going to be nothing like that. Okay? The ladies were living loosely. Trump will not pardon him. Question why they waited so long. Diddy has a right to remain silent, and he's innocent until proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. Trump shied away from a pardon. We'll see. Trump definitely did say that he would consider it if he felt like Diddy wasn't being treated fairly. Donald Trump did say that. Okay. But do I think that he would do it right away? Absolutely not. A lot of MAGA is not down with Diddy. Like, they throw Diddy in the same category as Beyonce and Jay-Z and lot of these MAGA people despise, they loathe the celebrities in general, especially them and him. So I think that's something that he would think about long and hard, and it wouldn't be something that happened overnight. I just don't think so. People pay for people. They meet in dating sites. Is that considered transportation? Um, this is the thing. It's not just transportation. It's through fraud or coercion, right? So, for instance, if I told you that you were going to, I want you to come and hang out and chill with me, and I want you to do certain things with me, right? And I'm gonna give you this if you come and do this, and then you come and do those things with me, right? And I don't give you what I told you I was going to give you. What do you call that? Right? Or you come and you do these things, right? And I say, okay, now that you did this, I'm going to show other people that we did these things, right? Unless we do it again. Okay? Unless we do it again. Or I tell you, come to my house, right? Come to my house. And I know you don't got nowhere to stay. Come to my house and stay at my house. I'm going to give you some place to stay. I'm just giving you like examples of certain things. Come to my house. I know you don't got nowhere to stay, but come to my house. I'm going to let you chill at my house. Then you're chilling at my house. I know you don't have anywhere to go. You come chill at my house. And then I tell you, look, unless you do stuff with me, you got to go. I'm going to kick you out onto the street unless you do certain things with me. Right? What do those things sound like to you? Right, exactly, Valerie, right? So those are just like kind of like broad examples. Let me show this here. Hold on a second. Remember that clicks and likes translate to money when it comes to content creators, and many people are more motivated by and loyal to money than truth. So important to do your own research and check reliable sources for information. I want to thank you for your integrity and well presented. Oh, thank you so much, Cornell. I appreciate that. I appreciate that. I think this is the thing, right? And I said this in another live. Like I feel like we all have like biases, right? Just in general. Some may be stronger than others, but we all tend to lean a certain type of way. And I think that's fine. But what I don't think is okay is lying to people, outright lying to people, right? So you may feel a certain way in your heart, but if you have a platform and you're talking to people about stuff, like I feel like you have, a responsibility to not lie to them. You know what I mean? Yeah, you can be honest about your feelings, but you can't lie to make people like believe something that you want them to believe. I am wholeheartedly against that. I think that's whack and corny. Okay? I think that's whack and corny. You don't need to do that. You just don't need to do that. You don't need to do that. So I appreciate the compliment. Thank you so much. This is just speculation. Wait, hold on a second. This is just speculation of what he might have done, but nothing proven in concrete evidence. Do I think people will start tearing stuff up if he's found guilty? What is it? They say a quick verdict is usually guilty. So, do I think that people are going to start tearing things up? Listen to me, okay? That court down at that courthouse is real crazy. It's a madhouse. I don't know what people are going to do if he's found guilty. I don't know what people are going to do if he's acquitted. I don't. Tantrums over guilty verdict? I don't know. I was in the main courtroom on last Friday. I wasn't in the overflow room. I'm usually in the overflow room. But Friday I was in the main courtroom, and I heard that in the overflow room they were losing their mind, going crazy. There has been a woman in the main courtroom that was like yelling and screaming, and she was forcibly removed. Remember that a couple of weeks back? She was forcefully removed from the courtroom. Okay, she was a supporter, one of his supporters. And I saw her today. I was on camera and I was trying to film her, and I said hello to her, and she She was not trying to say hello back to me, honey, and that's okay. Okay. But my point is, there are people who have very, very strong opinions about this whole situation. So it's going to be hard to tell, um, you know, what's going to happen. Betty Sue said, I don't understand why they continue to go back and seemingly enjoy their experience at times. And Jamel said, you shouldn't misrepresent the truth. No. And oftentimes the women had their choices of who to invite. Here's the thing, right? I think people know what's coming. I don't think it'll be too crazy. I hope it's not too crazy. I'm going to just address what Betty Sue said really quickly. I'm going to get back to these instructions and try to like wrap this up in like another maybe 20 minutes or so. If you're not following me here on TikTok, please follow me. And if you're watching on YouTube or Facebook, please share this in real time and follow me if you're not following me on either one of those platforms. All right. So here's the thing, right? You said, so I don't understand why they continue to go back and seemingly enjoy their experience at times. I think that very early on, you know, they were probably okay with it very early on. Okay. Um, and kind of looked at it like, you know, like a sensual sort of experience that they were having with a partner that they liked or loved or whatever, right? And it kind of seemed exciting, right? Um, and I think it was something that might have been okay in the beginning, but it just kind of turned into something that just happened every single week. This is the issue that I have with that, okay? I would let the Tootsie roll. Listen to me. I, I think that we can draw the line at multiple, you know, infections and painful UTIs and yeast infections and things of that nature. Like we're getting into territory that's not sexy anymore. Okay, when it's a constant, you know, weekly cycle of sores and pain and things of that nature. This is where it's not sexy anymore. So this is where I feel like I kind of draw the line there. Okay. And as far as women having their choices of who to invite, you know, there was testimony where, uh, you know, there were a couple of very, very unsavory characters that were solicited for these FOs, you know, very unattractive, sweaty, smelly people. So it's like if you have a choice between somebody who's smelly and sweaty as opposed to somebody who's attractive, if you're going to be doing something like this, I think that you would probably try to like, you know, make that choice yourself and say, look, if I got to do it, let me just have this person that's at least good looking and bathed, honey. Okay. So I think that's where that came from. All right. But I get what you're saying. I'm sure it was cool when they thought it was a mutual want need. Once it was, yeah, this is the thing. Like, again, it's cute in the beginning, right? Have any of you in the chat had, you know, an experience with more than one person at the time, right? And maybe you were okay with it. Like, oh my God, this is, you know, fun, sexy kind of thing. There's a couple of people here and we're all having a nice, wonderful time. But imagine having to do that every week for hours or days. That's not sexy. It's not. We're not going to pretend like that's sexy at all. It's not. It's just not. Okay. Is the verdict not out, or am I seeing AI seeing he's found guilty? Yeah, no, there's no verdict. There's no verdict. And the jurors are still deliberating. They stopped deliberating today around 5 p.m. and they're going to be deliberating again tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock. Okay, you said I'm so vanilla. Listen, I'm vanilla too, honey. Okay, because listen, there's so much stuff that I found out when I was listening to this testimony that I was just like, what the hell? What the hell? Like, oh, like, I was like, what? Yes, sweetie, it's fake news. There's no verdict yet. Do y'all think he's walking? And y'all can answer Brooke Shields in the comment, and if you guys think that he's walking. Okay. So let me just go really quickly. Let me like finish this up. So okay, so this is another thing that the judge said. He said that um voluntary intoxication may negate the intent requirement for of RICO predicates. And he said, as it relates to uncalled witnesses, you've heard names of people not called as witnesses. Each side had an opportunity to call them. Do not speculate or um, consider this. Okay. So this is the thing, right? I think that this is very, very important because specifically KK, okay, she was all up and down. I agree that soreness is not sexy, even still they continue to partake in the shenanigans. Let me go ahead and I'm gonna pin your comment over here so everybody can see that. How do you call? Can you call that coercion? I will get back to that in a second. Okay, I'll get back to that in a second because I think it's just a lot more nuanced than just, you know what I mean. Um, you have to also understand that, especially with someone like Cassie, who was involved with him at a very, very young age, right? So they met when she was about 19. She was already dating this guy who was, 10 years her senior. She was in a relationship with him for a very, very, very long time. And we sort of, kind of like saw firsthand what happened when she tried to leave, right? We saw that. We watched what happened when she tried to leave a situation. Was, do we all believe that that was the first time that something like that happened? Do we believe that was the first time that that happened? That sort of thing. So I don't know. Okay, so each side had an opportunity to call witnesses. So it was interesting to me that Christina Coram wasn't involved. I mean, wasn't called as a witness. Okay, I really truly believe that they were going to call Christina Coram. I thought that was going to be like the freaking. I thought they were going to do the big one at the end, honey. And then they called Brendan, the freaking quote unquote substance mule, and it was just like womp womp. Like what? But it was what it was. I believe that they're going to be going after Christina Coram if they um get the results they're looking for. If he's found, if they like convict on that first charge, I believe that it's they're gonna definitely go after her. They have to, because there's no way that they're gonna implicate this woman and she's all up and down through this case and they don't call her. That would be ridiculous. That would really piss me off. They should, because she knew about everything. Come on, like she got to go. Get her out of here. Get her up out of here. She definitely got to go. So I no. Okay, so we're gonna keep our fingers crossed that they get her too. Okay, and a couple of other people too, but she is like one of the main ones, and she got to go. Okay. Any notes you took are only for you. No outside reading. You are to consider only what's presented within the four walls of this courtroom. You may not communicate about this case, including on X, Instagram, YouTube, etc. Okay. And if you see anybody doing anything like this, tell my deputy. So throughout the case, the judges, you said she already left the country. Trust the system. She probably did, honey. Who knows? Do I think she was passively coerced because she was in need of? You asking me? I don't know which person that you're referring to. I don't know which person you're referring to. Um, like, tell me that again. Like, kind of like rephrase that again for me. Um, so uh the jurors were taking a lot of notes. Like I said before, I was only in that overflow room one time, and that was last Friday. And I was looking at the the I was looking between the jury and the family. Like I was just so like excited and happy to be in that main courtroom because I hadn't been in there before. Oh, Christina Coram was um that's a really good question. That's a really good question. And I don't really have an answer for that. I really would need to think about that. But I think that is a really, really very, very good question. I really do think so. Let me think about that. Okay. Let me think about that, but that's a great question. So I was looking at the jury and the family, and I was looking around at other people, like just like trying to take it all in. Because I hadn't been in that main courtroom only but one time. So the one time I was in there, I was just like, I'm just gonna look at everything and just kind of like see everything. And they were taking crazy notes. Now, don't get me wrong, I did notice a couple of jurors kind of doze off here and there, but I didn't like pay that much attention because, child, I was dozing off a little bit too, just a little bit here and there. The Friday that I was there, I had been up since 11:30 the previous night, um, you know, overnight, because I got there at 11:30 at night. So I stayed there overnight until the court proceedings the following day. So by the time I got into the courtroom, I was so tired. Oh my God, I was so tired. So I was dozing off, but I kept getting like a second and third and fourth wind, right? Like I was drinking cold water and they had a break. I got some iced coffee. So you know how you can get your third wind back and your fourth, fifth, and sixth wind back, honey? So, but they were taking so many notes. They were taking so many notes. And today, like I said, I just found out that they can't share their notes with the other jurors. Isn't that weird? Why wouldn't they be able to share their notes with the other jurors? That's so weird to me. I would have thought that they could do that, but I guess not. I guess not. So he said, no, don't do that. Okay. So he said, don't communicate about the case. Let me ask you something in the comments. Y'all let me know in the comments if you think that none of the jurors looked at X or Instagram or anything like that. Let me know in the comments if you think none of the jurors did that. Okay. If you're not following me on TikTok, give me a follow. If you're not following me here on YouTube or Facebook, please follow me here. Okay. The judge says, do not be swayed by bias, including implicit bias. These hidden thoughts can impact what we hear and see and how we remember it. You will now retire to consider each case. Each of you must decide the case for himself or herself after deliberating. Okay. Your verdict must be unanimous. Yes, Betty. So each juror must use their own mind and opinion. Yes. Yes, and that I see what you're saying, and that's why he didn't. I see what you're saying. That's why he's saying don't let the people see your notes. So that actually does make sense. Your verdict must be unanimous. If you are divided, do not report the specifics. I'm sorry. If you're divided, do not report the specifics. Your foreperson will send out any notes and any verdict. Any communication with the court should be in writing. Now, this is when he addresses the situation with, are their devices tapped? God's child, that's a great question. And I believe that they are. I believe that they are. I truly believe we're dealing with the federal government. I believe that they are. I truly believe that they are. I believe that they understand this too, and they wouldn't be foolish enough to research anything on their phone. But honey, they're not sequestered. If I come home and, whoever I live with is here, what's to stop me from looking at their phone? You understand what I'm saying? What's to stop me from looking at their phone as soon as I get home? You know what I'm saying? So this is when he addresses the situation with the alternates. He said the alternates do not have to be here, but give your phone number to my deputy. You may be called to replace a juror. You'll be called when a verdict is reached. The alternates are jurors number 234, 247, 292, 321, and 330. And they were in the top row. I didn't realize that the alternates were the one in. Yes, honey, Big Brother is always watching. That's a fact. I didn't realize that the alternates were at that top row. I did not realize that. What about their family members' phones? I don't know if that. Oh, that's Christopher. Oh my God. So, okay, honey. So, listen, I don't know about their family members' phones, but I do think that they are monitoring their phones. Now, their family members can do what they want. You know what I'm saying? Like their family members can do what they want to do with their own phones. It's their phones. And Judge Subramanian in the very beginning told everybody, look, If you have CNN alerts and all of them stuff like that, whatever alerts on your phone, take them off. Like, unsubscribe, take all that stuff off your phone, them apps, all that, take all that stuff off your phone. He said that in the very beginning. So I thought it was interesting about the alternate situation because very early on, right? Listen, very early on, juror 25, they handed the note to the judge and they were like, yeah, we don't, juror number 5 doesn't feel like he can continue. And all I kept thinking about was the judge telling the alternates, like, don't go too far. So look, we'll see what happens tomorrow. If there's like this rogue juror, if juror 25 is a rogue juror and he's just in there beefing with everybody or whatever, who knows? And they like, look, he's got to go. The next one is going to come. Now, I was getting the feeling that the defense kind of wanted that juror to be excused. I kind of got that feeling. But I can't, I don't want to get up on here and talk too much about feelings, you know what I mean? And then have people kind of run with that. So I'm just going to just leave my feelings to myself. Like, don't take stock in my feelings, okay? Don't take stock in my feelings. But, if like you're arguing back and forth and, the judge kind of sides with the prosecution about certain wording to the jury about juror number 25, it's just like, you know what I'm saying? And the prosecution is pushing for a certain thing and the defense is pushing for something that makes me think that the defense would be fine with that juror leaving. Okay. Look, they have a witness expert, right? That's been there since the beginning. And she's somebody who's just like an expert at reading witnesses and their body language and stuff like that. And Diddy is paying a good amount of money to have that person there. So there might be something about a particular juror that not a witness, a juror expert. There might be something about a specific juror that juror expert, doesn't like. Who knows? You know what I mean? I'm not an expert. I'm not any of this. I'm just giving my little commentary. So maybe that particular juror expert that he's paying a lot of money for is just like jury consultant. Thank you so much. Exactly. That's what they're called. Maybe she's like, look, he don't want to be here. Yeah. See if you can get him out. Cause I didn't like him anyway. Who knows? You know what I mean? But you're paying a jury consultant a lot of money, right? I heard that she's paid upwards of like at least $1 million or something along those lines. And if it's not that, it's a lot because she's been there. Right. So I know she's getting paid handsomely and she's not going to be getting paid a lot unless they know that she has a proven track record of getting good results for other people. Right. I mean, I feel like that just makes sense. So, so the alternates leave and then the judge hands them the verdict sheet. And it says only if you find the defendant guilty on count 1, answer as to each predicate not proved or proved, and did SEX trafficking involved SEX trafficking of Cassie. Now the way that Inner City Press has worded this is like super confusing. Okay, so the way he worded that was super confusing. So let me just move on. Okay, so I apologize for that, but this is literally the way he worded it. He, shout out to him though. Look, he's doing the damn thing. He's in there typing super fast, trying to get everything out. So here and there, if we get a tweet that's a little bit, off, we're definitely going to forgive him for that. So we're going to go on to the next one. From now on, your schedule is your own. You will be provided with meals. Now the marshal will swear you in, and this is the marshal swore them in, and then now the jurors can head back to the jury room, and the jurors exited and went over to start deliberating. Okay, now this was interesting to me. I was here for this also. So AUSA Johnson, we object to including the subject of the lines of BlackBerry messages like I am so HORNY. This was abbreviated because that subject line said I am so HORNY, and it's also said a bunch of other explicit stuff. Okay, like a lot of explicit stuff, but Inner City Press kind of like abbreviated it, but it was just like super explicit stuff. So Diddy's lawyer Esteveo said, well, it's common for exhibits to include subject lines. Um, BlackBerry messages are more akin to emails than text messages. Okay. So the judge says, let's have only neutral lists go to the jury. I trust the parties to provide an appropriate laptop to the jurors. I'm going to stick around for a bit, but we'll stay here as long as they wish to deliberate. And at the end of the day, we'll bring them in. So basically, um, you know, that whole situation with all of that stuff in the subject, that was out. Okay. I heard on TMZ that tomorrow evening. This is the thing. SA also becomes hyper. Okay. So this is the thing. There very well could be a verdict tomorrow, but there could be a verdict tomorrow afternoon or tomorrow morning. You know what I'm saying? We just don't know. My hope for me on a personal selfish level is I hope that we have a verdict. Listen, I went ahead and took off Wednesday too. I took off on Wednesday because, listen, could you imagine if I went up there, right? I went up there all this time, all these weeks and stuff like that. And then I'm teaching a class when the freaking verdict comes down. I would be so pissed off. So I went ahead and took off Wednesday morning as well, because I'm thinking if they don't, I'm working tomorrow evening, right? My class is at 6. But I think that if they haven't reached a verdict, they're probably going to do the same thing they did today and leave by like 5 o'clock, right? So I'll be able to make it to my class at 6, and then I'll be back on Wednesday morning. But listen, I think there's a good chance that they might come to a verdict tomorrow. I do think there's a good chance. As a defendant, I would have pushed for the jury to be locked down. Listen to me. I know why they didn't want the jury to be sequestered, because it's like when people are away from their friends and family for too long, when it's time to deliberate, it's very, very much giving like, okay, well, guilty, not guilty, whatever, honey. Whatever you say, what y'all said, guilty? Oh, okay. Because I'm trying to go home. You know what I mean? Like I don't feel like you're going to get like a true verdict when you've been away from your family. Listen, we're talking about this or whatever. I get to right now go to sleep, wake up tomorrow in my own bed and just go live life and go back and watch the things and this, that, and the third. Like, could you imagine being away from your family and friends for weeks, months? The OJ trial, the jury was over it. Yes, they were gone for 9 months. They had a party the night before. They were having cocktails. And honey, everybody was just like, no, he's going to be found not guilty, because who parties the night before you getting ready to put somebody in jail for the rest of their life? They were over it. They took what? How long did the OJ trial was 9 months? How long did they take to deliberate? Like 2 hours? Somebody said in a chat earlier. They were just like, whatever, the glove don't fit, you must have quit. All right, bye, not guilty. See you later. Come on. 9 months, that's ridiculous to be away from somebody. But it's like at the same time, though, from what I understand, federal cases aren't as long, right? They usually don't allow things to be going for. But then again, I don't know. Maybe I don't know. Don't quote me on that. But this is what I've heard, that with federal cases, they go shorter. Okay. In the very beginning, Judge Subramanian was very much like, look, I'd like to see this done by the 4th of July. Now, look, can you say for a fact, yeah, it's going to be done by the 4th of July? No. But Judge Subramanian, he definitely was given like, we're not going to be up here for no months and months and months, child. Y'all got to get this wrapped up by then. Okay. And the jury don't get paid. We got bills, honey. Hello. What is it? $40 a day? $50? Oh, it's $50 a day. When I was doing jury duty, it was $40 a day, and something happened and I couldn't even get my little coin, honey, my little $80 for my 2 days. Okay. So it's just like for weeks and weeks and weeks, some people just don't have the resources for all of that. People, you got bills. You'd have to watch the movie 10 Angry Men to understand what you're talking about as time for deliberation. I will definitely check that out for sure. $50 in New York now. Yeah. Listen, I think that $5 in New Jersey. Please tell me that you are joking. Please tell me you trolling and it's not $5 in New Jersey a day. Please tell me you trolling and it's not $5. I will get off this live right now. Please don't tell me that it's only $5 an hour in New Jersey. You please tell me you trolling. You listen. Okay. $5, $7 in Washington State, $9 a day. I got to go. Y'all are bugging out. Y'all are listen. That's got to be a joke. That's barely enough for. Let me keep reading this because that is crazy. And then they wonder what $25 in ATL. They wonder why people don't want to serve. Oh, you said it was $25 for you, Betty Sue. Where are you located? What state are you in? So the judge says, I appreciate the collegiality on both sides in this case. So he did say that he liked the fact that the prosecution and the defense, got along with each other. And they definitely did. There were a couple of times that there was a bit of contention back and forth, but it was never to the point where they were disrespectful to each other. And they were very, very much speaking with each other, smiling at each other, respectful for the most part. And I did notice that too, and other people noticed that too. With such a serious, important case, the level of professionalism between the prosecution and the defense was like the chef's kiss, what they say now. It really, really was. Okay, so he says, anything else before we adjourn? And Maureen Comey says, no, can we go to another floor of the courthouse? So the judge says, just give us your cell phone number. So she was saying that while the jury is deliberating, like, what do you want us to do? Like, can we, do you want us to just go to another floor of the courthouse, or can we leave or whatever? So basically you can leave, but just don't go far. Because from what I understand, if there's a, are you tagging Monique, Jamel? She gonna watch the playback anyway. That's my girl. She definitely gonna watch the playback, even if she don't catch it live. So I think they give like an hour. Once they give a verdict, they give like an hour or whatever for people to get back. So everybody's close by. I would imagine that, obviously both sides, prosecution and defense, are somewhere close by, right there in New York. The friends and family, everybody, especially the family, they're probably at whatever, nice hotel real close by. Obviously the judge is over there nearby and stuff like that. And we're all nearby too. Like I said, I'll be right back up at the courthouse tomorrow, in the morning, about 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning, and we'll just be on verdict watch, and that's what it is. Okay. So let me see. I'm about to wrap this up soon. And hold on. So this was when they received that note from the juror, and they elected juror number 5 as the foreperson. And there's an agreement on the laptop. It'll be taken into them. Now we'll have a longer break. Now, I don't know who juror number 5 is. I don't know who juror number 5 is. I don't think that free Diddy. Okay. I don't think that it's a secret or anything like that. And I'll try to find out. If you guys know in the comments who juror number 5 is, you can put it in the comments. Okay. But that's who the foreperson is. Now, they were saying that it was that same black lady that was like, everybody was talking about, that was like, having facial expressions and stuff like that. I don't know for sure, but this is what I was hearing. I don't know for sure. Okay. And I said this before, I'm going to say this again. Just because people give a facial expression, or somebody gave a facial expression during the court proceedings, I would not place too much stock in that. Okay. Again, we talked about the person who's the expert and stuff like that. And I'm sure she could probably understand the difference, right, between somebody smirking about something in the moment that resonated with them, and somebody who, you know, maybe she goes by their body language or something, right? And I made this example earlier. So if there's somebody who I don't particularly care for that says something funny that I find funny, I'm gonna laugh. But it doesn't mean that I like that person. It just means that I found what they said in that moment. Hi, Rondell. What I found in that moment to be entertaining. You understand what I'm saying? So the 31-year-old male investment analyst, is that the one who's the jury foreperson? There's probably Diddy bots in here. I think so, because they're everywhere. They're definitely everywhere. And I would expect them to be. You know what I mean? I would expect them to be. I think that um, you're gonna have public relations. There is a public relations person that I've seen there at the courthouse who's like a girl who I've seen there, and I put a video of her on my page. But I think that she's not the only public relations person. I would imagine that there's a public relations team, right? Thank you so much, Margie. Thank you. I think that there's a public relations team that's probably in place, right? And again, I would expect that to be the case. Look, you have situations that happened even with other celebrities, right? That have made, like, look at Johnny Depp and the other woman. What's the woman that was there with Johnny Depp that they had the court case and stuff like that? Do I just talk to myself? I don't know if you're asking me that or if you asked me a question that I didn't get to see, but I'm absolutely not talking to myself, honey. Amber Heard. Each one of those people had PR teams that were showing so much crazy stuff on social media on both sides. No, there was no verdict. They stopped deliberating at about 5 o'clock today, and they will resume deliberating tomorrow at 9 o'clock. But my point is, I would expect to see, bot farms and all kinds of stuff in place. Okay. I definitely should block the bots. Absolutely. And I'm definitely gonna work on that. Once I get better at this, okay? Once I get better at this, I definitely will do that for sure. They obviously found him guilty since they got beyond question one. Shanoa can cook. That's me. That's me. Okay. So let's see here. Okay, so this happened now. This is a little bit later on. So Inner City Press says, during this court adjournment, at least for now, Sean Combs is still in the courtroom. Family members are standing in the second room. Combs goes back to speak with them, holding his hands behind his back, and then back to the table, staring at the laptop. And then it says, update as we said would happen. Now, between jury notes, Sean Combs has been taken back into the holding cell. At the defense table, his lawyer Driscoll is typing away at his laptop. And then Sean Combs is back in the courtroom. His lawyers are huddled behind him in discussion. There's been another jury note. This is at 1:27 p.m. Judge, we have received a note from the jury that we have a juror, number 25, who we believe cannot follow your instructions. I would like to meet with the court about it. And the judge says, I suggest I ask for more information. So the next tweet is Comey. This is the prosecution. May we have a moment to digest what your honor has proposed? This is very sensitive. And Mark Agnifilo, this is Diddy's lawyer, says, I suggest we just tell them it's early. You're just getting started. If there's a further issue, please let us know. If we go that route, we suggest instructing the jurors it's important to not include any information about what's going on in the jury room. It's 1:48 p.m. See if you can come to an agreed upon note. I'll come back at 2 p.m. and we'll figure this out. While still waiting in the case, AUSC Comey cited U.S. v. Baker. Second Circuit upheld removal of juror who refused to participate in. Okay, so I probably had it backwards, honey. It looks like Mark Agnifilo wanted that juror to stay because she's saying that the Second Circuit upheld removal of juror who refused to participate in deliberations as required by her obligations as juror, despite the rule of Thomas. So the judge says, this is at 2:02, do we have an agreed upon response? And Combs' Agnifilo says, no, we do not. And then Comey says, Ms. Slavic has emailed it to Chambers, and it's not in the docket. Do we have the defense proposal? And the judge says, I would refer to have a neutral response like the government's draft response, that's the one I'll use. I'll put it on the court's letterhead. Combs' Agnifilo, there is no suggestion the juror will not follow construction, so our proposal is more inert. And the judge says, I don't want to suggest to the jury that there's any particular time that they must deliberate. I don't want to tell, okay, so this is where I was confused. I don't want to tell them they just started. I'm going to go with the government version. Okay, so that's where my confusion was. I'm going to go with the government version. We'll print that out and we'll send that in. Okay. 4:49 p.m. Sean Combs has been brought back to the courtroom by U.S. Marshals. His lawyers are gathered around looking at a piece of paper. And the judge says, we have two notes from the jury. And this I thought was very, very significant. Okay. The jury says, if an individual asks for a controlled substance and the person hands it over, is it distribution? I don't know. What do you guys think about that? Okay. What do you guys think about that? Listen, if there are bots for voting, there's surely a marketing influence team for those with money. Yeah. Thank you for all your time and effort. No problem. Like, I enjoy doing this. I'm tired as hell. I'm about to go to sleep, but I really enjoy doing this. So that was the question. If an individual asks for a controlled substance and the person hands it over, child, is it distribution? And then the second note said that they will end at 5 p.m. And the judge, Supermanian, said that he, suggests that we respond by pointing to the jury charge. Like, so, basically he was there for about an hour and some change, giving the jury instructions. What I'm reading from Inner City Press is like a condensed version of all that. Okay. So basically, like I told y'all, about this earlier. So go back and look at what I said, and there's your answer up in there. That's basically what he's saying. So we have a response to the question, but if the jury wants to leave, let's do that first. And then Agnifilo says, we have a response too. And the judge says, let's bring our jury and then just charge them for the day. So the jurors come in. And then it says, per the jury's request, it's now 5 o'clock. So we'll excuse you for the day. Your question will answer you tomorrow morning. I'm not going to bring you into the courtroom tomorrow morning. You just come in and start at 9. And then Ms. Comey says, AOSC Comey says, I think that the answer should say yes, then point back to the instruction. Okay, Combs Agnifilo says, I would take a little more time to discuss it with the team. My initial reaction is that is not our proposal. Okay, so again, with the question, if somebody hands them the substance, Maureen Comey wants to say yes. And we know why she wants to just say yes, right? We know why, okay? And then Agnifilo is just like, well, I would take a little bit more time to discuss it with the team, okay? So the judge confer with the government and let us know by 6 p.m. is their agreed language. That will be in the docket. And okay, so they're finally adjourned, okay? So look, I would suggest, like, if you really want to get really, really more in depth with certain things, go and, of course, absolutely follow Inner City Press on Twitter. Go and follow him. But he has a Patreon that you guys can like pay. I don't know exactly how much it is, but I would assume it's not going to be too much money, a few dollars maybe, right? And he has books that he writes, weekly, like little small, I guess maybe like a pamphlet or whatever, right? That's a dumb question. Why did they already know that? He has like a thing that he writes every week to kind of dispel a lot of the fake news and false reporting that you see. So if you really, really want to know the truth about certain things, I definitely suggest that you go and follow him. And, if you have the coin, go ahead and subscribe to his Patreon as well. He's one of the, listen to me, I've seen, and I'm not a journalist, I'm just somebody up here giving my little commentary or whatever, okay? So um but I've seen a lot of journalists up there. I've seen a lot. There are some really, really good journalists up there. There's some great journalism going on there, up there at the courthouse. But he is one of the best I've seen. You know, he's working about 3 or 4 different cases. It's not just Diddy. Like, he's constantly around the clock up at that courthouse at the Southern District, commenting on, not commenting, but like, reporting about various cases and stuff like that. Like, he is a true, true, true journalist to his core, to his very, very core. And I definitely would suggest that you subscribe to him and subscribe to his Patreon. He's fantastic. Okay. The next thing that I'm definitely going to be paying attention to is the Drake. It's a civil case between Drake and UMG. Are you guys familiar with that? Have you guys heard of that? That's something that I'm definitely going to be kind of focusing on a little bit. And I would definitely like to kind of look into another situation with the situation in Idaho, with 4 people being unalived. Somebody or several people in the chat brought that to my attention earlier. So I'm going to be reading up on that. And I will definitely be giving my commentary on that as well. So there's some other stuff that I'm going to be talking about coming up, because this is going to be winding down. We'll be talking about this, for maybe the next week or 2, probably, right? Because, no matter what happens, it's still going to be a hot topic, but I definitely would like to, talk about other things as well. Okay. So look, if you're not following me, here on Twitter, not Twitter, child, TikTok, follow me here on TikTok, and also follow me on YouTube as well. My YouTube is starving, struggling. It's horrible. It's just so pathetic. So I would like to, I don't even think I have 200 subscribers there. So I went ahead and I put my YouTube in my like bio thing on Twitter, so you can follow me over there too. I really, really would like to be on like more platforms and stuff like that and have more of a significant presence there. Okay. But I appreciate everyone who's followed me here on TikTok, everyone who's commented and sent, gifts and hearts and everything. I truly, truly appreciate it. I love the vibe over here. Don't get me wrong. I love y'all on Facebook. Y'all know I'll be living on Facebook, but I really love the vibe on TikTok as well. And I really, really like it over here. Okay. So I'm going to sign off. I have a lot of stuff to do in the morning. Before I do need a moderator here on TikTok. This is the thing though. Let me just tell you really quickly before I go. I would like a moderator here, but I don't want to censor like people just for like maybe being rude here and there or saying certain things. Now, if you're being abusive and crazy, then absolutely, right? But here's the thing. I think sometimes people might say something that may seem abrasive or may seem a certain way, and maybe you just kind of need to talk to them a little bit. And, sometimes I think that someone might say something and we might interpret it a certain way, but maybe they didn't mean it like that. So I'm a little hesitant to just like block people that I have a difference of opinion with, right? But I do think that people who are like being trolly or weird or and it is a continuous. I understand what you're saying. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely 100% right. So people who are being abusive and just like trolling, and just like being like a bot or just like being stupid, yes, they gotta go. But just somebody who just doesn't agree with me, and maybe they kind of forcefully said something, maybe I struck a nerve and they said something, I said something and they really didn't like it and they said whatever, like, I want to give people a chance to express themselves. I really, really do. But I think you're 100% right. If somebody's being abusive and weird and crazy and just, constantly posting the same stuff over and over and over and over again, like, they definitely got to go. Absolutely. So I'm definitely going to look into the having a moderator and stuff like that. Absolutely 1000% going to look into that. And I appreciate the suggestion. Okay. That's why I'm here instead of TikTok, Betty Sue. Okay. Look, follow me here on YouTube, Betty Sue. Okay. And I'm also on Facebook too. I don't know if I can link the Facebook on TikTok. I really, but my Facebook is Shanoa Lawrenson. All right. So look, I gotta go to bed. I will see you guys tomorrow in the daytime, in the morning. What time do I go on tomorrow? So look, I want to say maybe around 10 o'clock. Okay, because I have some stuff to do in the morning. I'm gonna probably get up at about 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock, and try to handle everything that I need to handle here. Um, and because I need a few hours in the morning to handle some things. So we're gonna shoot for about 10:30, okay, 10 or 10:30 Eastern time, okay. Phenomenal woman. Oh my gosh, I've been here for a little bit. I gotta go, but follow me here, okay. I'm here in New York, so Eastern Standard Time. All right. So I will be on tomorrow about 10:30, something like that. Okay. So follow me. You'll get the notification. You know when I'm live. And look, we might get that verdict tomorrow. We might get that verdict tomorrow. Oof. Listen, let me go to bed. Let me go to bed. Let me go to bed. Let me get a couple of hours sleep, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. Thank you so much for everything. Follow me, follow me, follow me, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. All right. And everybody here on Facebook, and everybody here on Facebook. Let me dismiss that. Everybody here on Facebook and also YouTube. Okay. Thank you so much. AM. I'll be on tomorrow AM because I'm gonna get up super early. I have some stuff to do here before I leave. So I'm gonna try my best to get up to that courthouse at about 10 or 10:30 in the morning. AM. 10:30 AM. I'll be up there. Okay. And I'm excited for tomorrow. I'm excited for tomorrow, but I do want to get a little bit of sleep so I can be productive and be fresh. Okay. Thank you so much, everybody over here on this side. I really appreciate everybody's comments and everybody's opinions. I really, really appreciate it. All right. So I will see you guys tomorrow. Here we go.